we go. Flyers game day brought to you by Betway. There's Brian Smith.
There's more of me.
There's more of you. There is more of you. You got to get something to raise your computer up on so we don't look like you're looking up your nose.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's sitting on a stool from my deck. As you can see, I have a semblance of a kitchen here, nice. But I also still have painting supplies and a TV sitting on a microwave cart and all sorts of fun things here. So we're getting there. But everybody's taking the week off for Thanksgiving here, so we just kind of
not the NHL
paused. Well, yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if our electricians and painting contractors are part of the sporting world, but yeah, they're enjoying a week off here, so we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Can't get it back soon enough as well. It's the Flyers and the Caps tonight in DC. First and foremost, Felix Sandstrom gets to start. I like that tonight. I think it's a good spot for him.
I think it is too. This is a Washington team that is also having a tough go of it right now this year. They actually have, I think, a slightly worse record than the Flyers do coming in. And, it's a good spot coming up here because you've got, again, you've got the game tonight and an off day tomorrow for the holiday. You've got, and then a back-to-back Friday, Saturday, including an early start time. So I think it's a good spot to get him in there, get him, again, a game where he's not going to be coming off a back-to-back. And, we actually – I didn't see John Tortorella's media availability for Monday night until earlier this morning. But when you listen to it, it almost sounded like they were planning on doing it. He was being a little cagey about it. So I wasn't too surprised when I found that out. And, again, it's it's a good spot for him, I think, to get in there and, get a good game in with a whole, couple days worth of prep. I'm imagining maybe they gave him a heads up on this a few days ago. So that can only help him get ready for it.
Yeah, it seems like it's a logical spot, too, from the sense, Bri, that, Hart started out the year playing 3 straight. Sandstrom got a game. It was a back-to-back. Then Hart played 1, Sandstrom played 1. Then that was another back-to-back. Then Hart played 3, Sandstrom played 1. That was a back-to-back. Then Hart, right. Sandstrom, Hart, Sandstrom, and Carter Hart's played the last 4 games. And you just don't want your goaltender, your backup goaltender, to sit there for too long. It's now been 10 days. To me, that's about the number. 10, you don't want to go more than 10.
And we talked about this, I think, last year, too, with Martin Jones, even though he was, it was a different animal last year. He was a veteran backup goaltender and a guy that had played 60, 65 games a year for several years in San Jose before coming to Philadelphia. So it was the same sort of thing. They didn't want him to be on the shelf too long, get stale, lose his timing. I mean, that's the one thing about being a goaltender in this league is that, even your practice time is not the same. It's, most NHL practices these days are goalie abuse. It's just, okay, here we go, 3-on-0s. They do some technical work beforehand to focus on their fundamentals. But again, there's very little in the way of full game speed for goaltenders when they're not playing. So, yeah, you don't want to leave them too long. It's good to maybe get them a couple of games here in the next week or so.
Yeah, you're in a situation, too, where, you do have a back-to-back this weekend, Friday, the Black Friday game against the Penguins.
Yeah.
And then Saturday, you go to New York to take on the Islanders. But then after that, they don't have a back-to-back until the 22nd and 23rd of December. So they got a bunch of games in there with at least a minimum of 1 rest day. And you're going to have to get him into some of those games as well. But, and this year's about finding out what he is, too, to be honest with you. I mean, that's part of the equation here, too. We need to find out what a 25-year-old Felix Sandstrom is. He was drafted back in 2015. And the only way to do that's to give him a little bit of PT. Now, Carter's your number 1. That's not up for debate. But I like the spot to put him in here tonight, put him in on the road, knowing you got Pittsburgh on. I imagine we'll probably see him tonight and maybe Saturday.
Yeah, that's kind of what my inkling was, is that you would go with him tonight, him Saturday, you give Carter the Pittsburgh game, and then go from there. But it is a little bit of a rough stretch coming up here where you don't have a lot of off time. They do have these 2 days off coming up here between the Islanders games, but after that it's going to be every other day till I think the 19th, something like that, 17th, 19th. So it's a tall order, and you're not going to want. I don't think you're going to want Carter to play all those games. I'm not sure exactly how many there are there. I think it might be 7 in that stretch. You don't want to throw them all at him necessarily. So you probably work Sandstrom into a couple of those as well. But it's an interesting situation the Flyers are in goaltending wise, because they basically have a bunch of prospects right now that they're trying to figure out. You're right. What the future is for some of them. And they've got obviously Troy Grosnick down at the AHL as the veteran guy, but the focus right now is on Felix Sandstrom and on Samuel Ersson, and then who knows what the Ivan Fedotov situation turns into in a year. I don't know
Kolosov.
what. Yeah, you've got Kolosov rattling around out there as well now. So they're going to have to. Sit back and kind of take a long look at this over the course of this year. And you're right. The best way to do that is to, watch these guys in game action. And I would not be surprised too if they tried to see what Ersson can do at the NHL level here at some point.
Yeah, I agree. He's played well for the Phantoms. You look at some of the opponents coming up after this Washington-Pittsburgh game. You have the home and home with the New York Islanders. That's in a playoff position right now. Then Tampa, the steaming hot New Jersey Devils. You get them at home, part of that homestand. Colorado, and then Washington. Then you go on the road, you see Vegas, who's off to a great start. Arizona, not so much. Colorado and New Jersey. That's a tough run. And then you come home and you take on the Rangers and you get Columbus. Then it's Toronto, Carolina. I mean, this is a tough league, man.
Yep. And then right after that, right where you stopped is where the West Coast trip will start. Between Christmas and New Year's that the Flyers are always on while Disney on Ice comes in. So, there's going to be some spots there that it's probably good to put Sandstrom in and see what he can do. Right now, John Tortorella said in his pregame availability, the idea with him is they need to make one more save a game, I think, is what they're after. He's been solid. He's made some good stops, but every game he's played, there's been that one that's gotten by him that if it hadn't gotten through, it might have changed the course of the game. I think they're looking for him to buckle down and do that. And I think that's probably that's part of maturing as a goaltender is getting into games and learning how to make that extra save. I don't know that it comes naturally for anybody, especially somebody coming in from from a lifetime spent playing on a wider rink with different type of hockey to some extent. Obviously, he had all last year with the Phantoms, but this is still even a different animal than the American Hockey League. So he'll get there, I think, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I think that's the immediate goal for him is to come out and try to maybe make a couple of those saves that we've talked about that you're not supposed to make on a given night.
Yeah, I mean when they're giving up 3.21 goals per game, and that's 18th most in the NHL. So it's almost middle of the pack, close. The only problem is that they're only scoring 2.53 goals per game, which is 31st in the NHL. The only team that's scoring less than them is the Blackhawks, and they're tied with the Ducks. And look, when we do the lines, when we get to our radio portion of this,
you'll see why.
You'll see why. Yeah. I was supposed to talk to Torts today, and I wrote this down. I just said, I wrote these names down: Konechny, Lawton, JVR, Coots, Cam, and Wade Allison. Now take Allison out of that, right?
Yep.
With Konechny, Lawton, JVR, Coots, and Cam, I counted about 112 to 115 goals from those guys.
No, that's 5 of your top 6 right there. The only one that's in the lineup is Kevin Hayes.
And Allison was playing top 6.
Because the other 4 were gone. So now you're looking for Zach McEwen to provide your scoring, which he's done an admirable job of trying to do it. It's one of those situations where now with those 6 guys out, obviously you need as much as Kevin Hayes can give you, and he's given you quite a bit this year. But this is the time when you need to find more from Joel Farabee. You need to find more from Morgan Frost. Some of these guys that wouldn't necessarily have everything on their shoulders in a normal situation. You need to ask them to maybe come along a little quicker than you'd thought. And obviously with Farabee, the injury situation, he's still, I think, working his way back a little bit. Not in terms of health, but timing and all that stuff that didn't have a preseason.
Took Eichel a bit too. Took
yeah,
Eichel a good 4 months to really get his game back in order. It just takes time coming off a surgery like that.
Yeah. So I think Farabee's coming. Morgan Frost has taken some steps. He started out not having the kind of camp that the staff hoped he'd have, and then he started to flourish there a little bit here in the last couple of weeks. Maybe he's tapered off a little bit now, but there's been growth there. And now tonight, Jackson Kate slots back into the lineup for Max Willman, which again we'll talk more about it. But seeing how he might look now after some time in the American Hockey League, and whether or not he pairs up with the brothers or not, we'll see what happens. But they still have some guys to look at here, and it's just about trying to get some growth in.
In preparing to talk to Torts today, I wanted to ask him a question that I won't get the answer to today, but I will get it when I eventually do talk to him. And he's a guy, Torts, that says he's a guy that coaches the mind. And I don't know if he had this mind in order, but in the plan. But I wonder how he prevents the, quote, here we go again, defeated mentality. Because as, an athlete that's played team sports or a human being, you walk into your locker room and you know who's missing. I just listed 6 guys: Konechny, Lawton, JVR, Coots, Cam Atkinson, and Wade Allison. And human nature goes in and goes, wow, we're really missing a lot of good players here. And you've had some of the results in a 7-game winless skid that they're in right now. How do you beat away with a stick the here we go again mentality, and so the team doesn't get defeated? That's a really tricky mental thing to coach right now, I think, especially after the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit to having it myself, and I'm not even in the room on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
just us trying to cover it. It's like here you go again. I think it feels different to me this year than last year. Obviously last year the Flyers came in with some pretty hefty expectations. They had put together a team that on paper looked like it was going to, make a bit of noise. And then, 5 games in, they lost Ryan Ellis, and then the wheels kind of fell off there. And then, after a coaching change in December, and a lot of times we've seen teams be revitalized by that. That's when the injury bug really hit. So last year it seemed like, things were going to be really, really good. And all of a sudden it's just like, what in the world happened? This year, for better or for worse, the expectations, I think, were tempered a little bit. They knew coming in, obviously they don't have Claude Giroux. Ryan Ellis was, pretty much looked at as not going to be available. They've known for a while that they were hoping to get Couturier back, but it's not like they are going from playing with him to playing without him. They played the whole last half of last season without him, so that was a little bit less of a shock. So I feel like this is a little bit more of a I don't know if expected is the word, but it's not quite as much of a shock to the system as where we were this time last year, when it was just like, what is going on? This is nuts. Yeah. And
as you remember, ever right until the very end.
Right. Yep. With between his health issues and his the death of his brother, it was just a horrible year for him. We are probably 10 days out from a year ago that we had the coaching change. It just never quite. Remember that the Flyers did start to gain some momentum after that change in January, around the same time frame that because it was, if you look at the coaching changes the Flyers have made at that time of year, in the December time frame, you had John Stevens,
right?
Yeah, you had John Stevens coming in, and then you had John Stevens going out, and then you fast forward to the Vigneault and Yo switch. Yeah, all those guys took about a month, and then the 2 guys before them, yeah, they started to press down on the gas pedal a little bit, and the Flyers did the same thing, getting into January. It was starting to kind of pick up a little bit, And then I think somewhere in there was another COVID hit, was there not? That's where
Well, there was
Provorov
two games.
didn't
Yeah,
play.
two games were postponed too on the
Yeah.
21st and 23rd in the Christmas week.
Yep.
So they won 5-0-3 in an 8-game stretch.
When
The
was
games they
that now?
lost were one was a shootout, one was an overtime loss. So
And
no,
was that
sorry, 5-0-2.
Was that in January or December?
That's in December.
Okay, yeah.
10th.
So it's started to take off even. And remember when Mike Yeo came in, that's when they changed Travis Konechny's role.
Yep.
And Konechny started to take off. So again, I think it was there, and then you get to January and the injuries just got ridiculous. I think Couturier went out in the last week of December, and then from there it just trickled off. So, that was not
last game was December 8th.
Was it? Okay.
I believe. Yeah, and AV was fired after the Tampa game on December 5th, but technically I terminated on December 6th because they faced Colorado that night.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, back to back. You get Tampa and then you get Colorado.
So it was there, and so like I said, this is a little bit of a different year, and one of the things I wanted to ask John Tortorella when we were going to talk to him today, before it kind of went off the rails, was that if he's used to this, because we've talked about how his first year in a town is not a playoff year, it's kind of a if this is similar to those, and I think that's kind of what it is. I think this is a let's rein it in and reset, and now we're going to have to survive some more injuries and then go from there.
Yeah, we're going to join our radio audience here in a second.
Yep.
I'm just looking back towards his first years with teams. I want to look at something. It was only 21 games, so all right, let's look at that year. And we'll get the opening lineups and everything as well. This is going to be a pain in the butt to do. This is more of a bigger project for me.
I really need to come up with a solution that looks better than this, don't I? I look like Coatsy the night his headset broke.
Yeah, get rid of that other one from around your neck, because that's going to feed back on
I'll turn it down once we go to air. But
okay.
It's the only way I can hear you, right? And the only way you can hear me.
Yeah, for now, right? All right, here we go. That's right. It is Flyers game day as the Flyers get set to take on the Washington Capitals in D.C. Both teams coming in bleeding a little bit here, and both look to stop the bleeding. Each team, Brian Smith, Jason Martinez, by the way, each team's coming in with a record over their last 10 that they don't want to mirror. That's 2-6-2. And the Flyers have gone winless now in 7, and the Caps have gone winless in 4. Somebody's coming out of this game tonight, stopping it. Might as well be Flyers.
Yeah, it would be nice if it was the Flyers, that's for sure. They really need to kind of get some wind in their sails. They haven't had much of it as of late. And Washington, they've had perhaps an even worse start to the season than the Flyers have. You look at their roster, and it's just not the roster you're used to seeing from the Washington Capitals, and the guys that you are used to seeing don't quite have the numbers that they they normally do. You're used to seeing certain names as the goaltenders of this team. They're all gone. So It is a bit of a change in the system right now in the nation's capital. And, hopefully the Flyers can take advantage of it. They get them here tonight. They get them again here in a couple of weeks. And, we can kind of hope that, obviously we've always said that nobody's going to feel sorry for you or anything like that when things aren't going right. And so the Flyers got to put themselves in a good spot here to try to take advantage of this and see if they can't right their own ship a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the 4 straight, they lost some pretty good teams in there: Tampa, Florida, St. Louis, and Colorado. And right now, that team, that Washington Capitals team, is on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. 7th spot in the Metro, 20 games played, 7-10-3, 17 points. And the Flyers, 19 games played, 18 points on the season. And we're at that really interesting line of Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving. Teams that are in position at that time will make the playoffs 80% of the time. Teams that are not will miss the playoffs 80% of the time. Let's get to the lines here tonight, Brian, because we got some juggling, as always. So here's the Flyers lines. The top line, no juggling here. Frost, Farabee, and Tippett. So that's chalk. Hayes moves back into the middle. Noah Cates moves to his wing, along with Zach McEwen. So we saw Hayes take a lot of faceoffs in that last game. And it doesn't matter if you're a winger. You can still take the draw. And so they move Hayes back into the middle and move Cates to the wing. I kind of like Hayes at the wing because I think he can create there. So we'll see what that if John Tortorella juggles that at all.
Yeah, he talked about it the other night after the game that Hayes started on the wing, and then eventually, some point in the game, he ended up back in the center spot. And I'm not entirely sure when that happened, but they decided that they needed to put him back in the middle because the Frost line was not having a good game. So they're going to put them together again, give them another crack together. Obviously, you've got three guys on that line that are all relatively young. They're not rookies anymore, but they don't have a ton of NHL experience. And I know that the 2 2-on-1s that we talked about the other night basically turned the game the other way against the Flyers. I know Joel Farabee was one of the guys that Tortorella mentioned after the game, not by name, but he was insinuating a couple people that needed to drop back in the defensive spot. So again, they're not panicking or anything like that. I don't think there's a lot of panic here about wins and losses with this coaching staff right now. It's more let's move these guys along and see what happens as we go. And tonight when he was talking to the media, he summed it up. He said, our effort's been there, and if that ever goes away, they're in some real trouble. Which is not exactly the word he used, but I can't use the word that he used on the radio. But that's the idea: is keep up with the effort and let's keep mixing it up and find some things that work.
Yeah, let's not create another problem that we can control a little bit. The third line, Patrick Brown in the middle with Jackson Cates, who has been called up, and Tanner Lisinski got his first NHL goal the other day. Sedlak, Delaurier, and Bellows on the fourth line. Provorov, D'Angelo, Sanheim, and Braun, Sealer, and Ristolainen, and that's been pretty much chalk since all those players got healthy. But Felix Sandstrom gets the start tonight for the Flyers, and he's got a win under his belt in the NHL. He's getting a start when they're not on a back-to-back again, and they're looking for a good game out of Felix Sandstrom tonight. Now, the Caps come into this game, and I was stunned when I look up the numbers. And any team that's got Alex Ovechkin on it, you're thinking, what, power play, right? That's where he's eaten so much. Well, this team, the Washington Capitals, comes into this game. Their power play is ranked 24th in the NHL at 18.9%. Now, Ovi's got 9 points on the power play. They didn't have him, they'd be the worst team in the league.
Right.
But still, you do not put this team on the power play.
Yeah, and this is what goes to show you about how everybody has looked at this power play over the years and how Alex Ovechkin just sits there in that left side circle and hammers goal after goal after goal. And it's just like, why don't you just put a guy in his pocket and go with the other four guys? Well, then after that, it's picking your poison, right? And part of the poison is Nick Backstrom and TJ Oshie, and neither of them have been playing. Right now, the only other decoy they got out there is Kuznetsov, and that right there tells you that those are the guys. I mean, obviously Ovechkin's dangerous on the power play, but he's that much more dangerous when you have all those other guys to choose from. Yeah. Now, I forgot to look at this for sure. Let me see if we do have it. Yeah, Oshie is slotting back in tonight on a second line with Kuznetsov. He's been out for a week or two, I believe. But he's back tonight, and Flyers are just hoping that maybe he needs a game to get reacclimated. They had a little problem last week in Montreal, and Mike Matheson came back in the lineup and lit things up, and you kind of wished he'd taken another game. So hopefully the Flyers don't have to wish that TJ Oshie took another game off once this one's over.
Yeah, and it'll be at the other end of the ice, Darcy Kemper versus Felix Sandstrom.
I'm not used to that.
Yeah, that's
Washington Capitals goaltender Darcy Kemper. Not used to that at all.
Yeah, I mean, they moved on from Samsonov, from Vitek Vanacek, and it's
for so many years, right? You saw the next guy coming with this team.
Yeah,
they had their starter, and then the next guy was coming up from Hershey, and he was the backup. And then the one guy would go somewhere else, and the backup would come in, and all of a sudden now you got two new guys. It's just not the way Capitals hockey's been for the last decade.
No doubt about it. Well, Flyers hockey's got Steve Coates and Tim Saunders in D.C. So stay tuned. Countdown to face off and all the first period actions coming up between the Flyers and the Caps right here on the Flyers Broadcast Network.